Hi guys, shall I tell them to turn
The
on?
first 30 seconds, you're not going to hear hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Let's just pause.
Hello.
'Cause people yesterday said, yes, we heard the first.
Hello.
They're not going to hear this.
Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. God, I look pale. Don't I look pale?
Oh, there we go. There we go.
I
Nothing like the usual terrible mobile reception. 1 second. There was a beginning, then there wasn't a beginning, and now there's a beginning again. And now we're here. You can hear us here, and you can see us in again.
I look so rough, don't I? I've not got one bit of makeup.
I don't think you look rough at all. I think you look so much better without makeup.
Mark!
What?
Don't be stupid.
One goddamn fucked up horror movie.
It's really good. You look so slim. You look very
Say that
hot.
again.
Why don't you take me on a date?
I think I said, why don't you take
When
your
was
top
the
off?
last time you took me out on a surprise date?
You're so notoriously difficult to take out. If I try and book something, you say, what is it? What is it about? You want to know
because I'm
everything.
excited.
No, and then if I say something that isn't vaguely what you'll go,
That's
oh,
not
don't like the sound
true.
of that. Restaurants, you're either eating this, not eating that, are eating that, don't
Mark,
want to go
you're
here,
being
don't want to go
a
there.
total wanker. If you asked me on a date now, I'd say I don't want to
If I
come.
wanted to book something, you'd be like, no, can't
No,
do
I
that.
don't
I've got
wanna go
something
then.
else booked. So it's an impossibility.
Well, if that wasn't an appalling show of manship, I don't know what was. Terrible.
Mark, very high tech with live chat on TV, YouTube app on my TV. Oh, well done you. God, a bit of YouTube app on your
Faith is
telly.
so on it.
So on it. Thanks for joining
Just
me.
book it
for,
before 8 p.m, said Sarah Sutton. Yeah. You can't go to dinner at 9. You have to go to dinner at 6 or 7. Stay in our hours.
And also so
That's
that you
all.
can stay awake.
Mark! Why are you being so horrible?
Mark! Do it again.
Ask me out on a date.
No.
Yeah, because I would have said no anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I knew you were going to say no. Here you go, 2 Scorpios. I'm not asking you on a date when I know you're going to say no.
Do you want to know why I look so shit? My God.
She went to a swingers party.
I went to Jane Moore's 60th birthday lunch party yesterday. Met a whole load
Thanks,
of her.
Kevin.
Made loads of new friends. It was actually an incredibly life-affirming afternoon. Jane was just amazing. She just stood up and she went, do you know what? I'm going to do this. Because lots of the women didn't know each other. And she went through every single woman and with such eloquence, she didn't drop a beat. Just in a nutshell, said how she'd met them and what she felt about them, what sort of person.
Wow.
The eloquence. I was like, oh my God. And then everybody went round and said something about Jane for her 60th. All just completely
It sounds
impromptu.
so civilised.
It was nuts because everyone was a little bit pissed, but not too pissed.
No, but it's nice,
Nobody was saying
civilised.
anything because they'd had wine, because they knew everybody had only had a couple of glasses of wine, and we sat there for about 2 hours, just like. And I just love, because you know me, I'm just so fascinated by people. It was like any other party you would have gone to, and you probably spoke to 3 or 4 people, you wouldn't have known much about anybody else. But it was so lovely.
Quite a nice icebreaker. I mean, maybe there's a topic in that somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
the ways in which to break the ice when you have a party. Because there's nothing more stressful, though I can absolutely vouch, without a shadow of a doubt, that I've never had this responsibility because I've never hosted my own party ever.
Well, I tell you
but
what,
the responsibility, I hear the responsibility of people getting on with it. I mean, I remember a few birthdays out feeling responsible for how people were going to get on if they came out together.
But you know what it was about it? It was just that it was just so natural. I mean, the thing is, Jane was so brilliant at it. It was like that's her full-time job.
She's a pro.
It was amazing, and everybody was like nearly 60 or 60. I didn't realise I'm not 59.
No.
Jane said to me, "No, you're not." I said, "I'm 60 next year." And she said, "No, you're not."
Everyone
No,
else-
I thought I was 59 this November, but I'm not.
No, you're 58.
So it was brilliant. I dropped a whole year yesterday.
Oh, right. So
So that was good, but it was just such a life-affirming
Luke, can I
day.
just read? Lewis King says, Nadia, you remind me of someone I know in Norwich.
Okay, I've been to Norwich. Yeah, and it was just, by the end of the day, it was what our conversation all turned to was, you know, people approach these big birthdays like, oh God, I can't believe I'm 30, I can't believe I'm 40, I can't believe I'm 50, oh, I'm going to be 60. And it's the simplest thing that you have to do is just say, what about the people that would do anything to make it to 60?
I'm going to just...
And then it becomes the most glorious celebration of your life. And just hearing what people said about Jane and what she said about them, you know, it was all about loyalty and when you were there for me when I was and and it was just, I just thought it was just a beautiful afternoon actually.
I had a moment with Tim in the garden, Tim the postman, and he shared exactly the same sort of thought.
Oh.
He said he was complimenting me on my bulk and how my musculature was improving. And I was complimenting him on his colour and his hair. I mean, we were dancing around each other. It was a kind of, you know, it was a real...
You are funny, you two.
Yeah, we are. And anyway, he was saying that people embrace their age too quickly and too willingly. And so he says he sees people decide they're going to get older before your very eyes. And this is something, Mum, that I often say to you is don't embrace those aspects that, because I think people, I don't mean this horribly, but I think people like to moan and groan. I always remember being driven mad by my grandfather's sigh when he used to stand up or sit down to sit. And I remember thinking, it can't really require that much effort to sit down and stand up. It might have done, but there's something about wanting people to know you're struggling that makes you get older. That makes you get older.
I think it's really good to decide, make a decision on what sort of, whatever big birthday you've got coming up. I think you can literally decide how you want to be. Picture what kind of 30-year-old, what kind of 40-year-old, what kind of 50-year-old, what kind of 60, and not just follow some idea of what 60 is, for instance.
Well, no, and he was saying the same thing that I feel. He said often I know people who've been told they have a certain amount of time to live, and then they live to that amount of time.
Exactly.
He said, whereas how do we know? How do you know you're not going to live beyond that, and all that kind of stuff? But he shared a story which I thought was really interesting. He shared a story about he heard this. He saw an interview with a bomber commander, you know, a guy who was responsible for all these bombers, fighter pilots, and in World War II. And he said that he made this really interesting observation. This is Tim telling me this. He made this really interesting observation, Mark. He said every time they knew they were going for a big fly, you know, sortie across Europe or across Germany, he said he could see in the faces of those pilots, the boys in front of him, which ones weren't going to return.
Really?
He said, and he said, every time I knew which ones didn't have the belief that they were going to return, and they rarely did.
Wow.
And I thought that was really stark. I thought, wow, this is Tim the Postman.
Yes, it is.
And I thought that was quite philosophical, because I think there is this idea, we have this notional idea that we hit a certain age, we ought to be getting... It's not to say we don't. Of course we do. You don't get older and older and stay young. It's not a fact. But you can certainly combat it by a mental state and a mental approach to it. That's what I feel.
Elsa Pop, but you're saying you're looking forward to your 40s because your 30s were shy. And I think I think all of that is really interesting. But I am talking more, I think, about us not saying, oh my God, I'm going to be 60, like it's a terrible thing. It's such a privilege to still be alive at 60. And I just wanted to read you something that I came across on Instagram the other day. And this is relating to Deborah James, you know, Bowel Babe, who's just got a few days left. Every now and again, someone comes along and reminds us how very lucky we are, and the beautiful Dame Deborah James has done that in Technicolor this week. This is a poet on Instagram. She has collectively gathered us in all her glorious and unwavering energy, solely to remind us to live. Like a worldwide weather front, her waves of grace, dignity, and peace have washed over us all. There is no bitterness, no cries of why me, or talk of what is fair. There is just the genuine passion to stay alive, and the want to pass that passion on to us, now that she knows she cannot. I've seen it affect us all this week. I've cried my tears. I know you have too. I've felt my heart constrict in sheer terror as I imagine having to leave my loves. We all have. But now I shall be living, not perfectly, not without mistake, not in a beautiful, magical way, just living in all its messiness and complication, and living a little more loudly too, because I feel Deborah would like that very much. Every now and again, the world is graced by the footsteps of an earth angel, sent to remind us all that we may not be here for long, but every second is for loving. It's vital we listen, then nothing has been in vain. Don't you think that's beautiful?
Who wrote that?
This woman, Donna Ashworth, I bought her book yesterday and gave it to Kiki.
Oh, no, I think I followed it.
Because she does lovely poems on mental health for young people as well.
Can I just quickly just show me her account, just quickly? Yes.
Did you like this one about exams?
Go back. No, this is the one where she had this brilliant 12-step idea for life, But the final one was crack open a bottle of champagne, and I said, there's just one that I can't do in your really wonderful manifesto for how to lead a perfectly happy life, and it doesn't include the champagne, sadly.
But if you want to follow her, at Donna
she's really good.
Ashworth Word, and yesterday Kiki was feeling a bit, bless her, she was feeling a bit nervous about her GCSEs, even though she's got a year, and I must send this to you, Mark, because you will love it.
Yeah.
So it's her second one on her grid. If your kids are struggling at the moment with GCSEs and feeling like their whole life is dependent on that, read them that poem, because Kiki sent it to all her friends yesterday afterwards. Again.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Holly Crompton-Nagy, I hope I pronounced your surname correctly. Any advice for being in your 20s? Well, the top tip I would give you, as I was looking at your comment and I was thinking, I know what I would say to you in your 20s, is appreciate your body and your mind for exactly what it is. Just go with what it's offering you, because in 10 to 20 years' time, what I mean by that is don't judge yourself in terms of being too large, too small, too tall, too this, because you're going to look back and you're going to look at yourself and you're going to go, wow, look at me then. Try and grab some of what you're going to think of yourself when you were 20, when you're older, and apply it to yourself now in your 20s.
And PhD Pickles says, wear sunscreen.
Yeah, wear sunscreen as well.
But what I would say is, try and identify, because I had no consciousness of it until I was in my 30s or 40s. And in my 20s, I was just rolling from one impulsive mistake to another, not realising that I had these very negative voices in my head, always knocking me, always stopping me from taking the risks that I should, and taking really negative risks. And so try and hear when you're talking to yourself in a nasty way, and start the work now in your 20s of quietening those voices and not allowing yourself to say things to you that you would never allow somebody else to say. That would, if I could change anything, that's what I would have changed in my 20s.
Erin says, I worry about wasting my 20s. There's so much pressure to make it the best time of your life.
No. There is, nobody can tell you what the best time of your life is.
Well,
I hate
but
it
everyone
when people,
does.
No, but I just...
Everyone does. I've heard you say it. Best
no,
years
but
of your
hang on
life.
a minute. What I was going to say, these are the best years of my life now.
No, I know, but we say it to young...
But we've
I
learned,
found myself saying it to people about college. It's such pressure. You're going to university, best year... You know, not.
Because like Maddie said, and some of her friends at uni and having a really shit time, and go, oh my God, this is going to be the best time.
Yeah.
Everybody's best time is at a different time. And just, you know, one day at a time is the best way. What have I done today to feel a bit better about myself, maybe to have made somebody else feel better about myself? What have I learned? Something big, something small? What have I done for my health? Each day at a time, if you do that, you will have a much better life.
Holly Crompton-Nagy, love that. Thank you so much, guys. First time joining you live, really appreciate it. I struggle with my mental health a lot. And just to chime in on that,
Holly,
just above
welcome.
you, Holly, welcome. Sharon JL says, I did that too. Look back at pictures in my 20s and realise I looked fantastic. There is an older you that's going to be looking back at you now saying, enjoy what you are more.
Give yourself a break. Be as kind as you possibly can. Think of the person that's most precious to you. It could be your nephew, it could be your nan, it could be your best friend, it could be anyone. And then picture whether you would allow anyone to talk to any of those people that you love so much in the same way you talk to yourself. If somebody came up and said something really horrible to your 5-year-old niece or something, what would you say?
Well, Christos says exactly that. Treat yourself in a way as if you would have given wise advice to your best friend.
Exactly.
And Gemma H says, don't wait for your best time. Don't think it's going to come. Life isn't going to start happening one day. It's happening
now. And don't think about happiness as something that hopefully you'll get and you'll feel it all the time. No. Happiness is meaningless if it's not just moments in your life. I have moments of happiness through my day, and then I have a whole load of other shit as well, like that Donna Ashworth says. I have a whole load of other shit going on as well. And I think when you're young, you imagine that happiness is supposed to be a continuous thing. And so that there's a feeling of unhappiness, because it's not. It's pockets. Moments.
Rian Kemp. Sorry, sweetie, I didn't mean that. This convo has made me quite emotional. I've been feeling down about myself lately. But Nadia, your positivity has always helped me so much. Thank you. Sweetheart. Sending you all, loads of love.
I just believe in it so much. I just believe that a key, not everything, is just to start tiny steps kinder to yourself. Forget everybody else, just kinder to yourself. Tiny step, and don't expect big changes, because it is the incremental moves towards it that actually will bring you a better.
But I also think,
life.
Societally, I was just talking to a friend for an hour earlier this morning on the phone, and I think that one of the mistakes we make is that we park the achievement of happiness in certain things. When I say things, I don't mean objects. Although a lot of people do park it in objects and things, but we also park it in achievements.
Status.
We park it in sort of moments in time that we feel should deliver a certain height. And the problem with that is we all do that, and we all sort of go hunting for, we think it's in holidays. I mean, we all understand the contradiction of it's lovely going on holiday, but then we have to come back from, sorry, I've been gardening, but we have to come back from holiday. And so happiness really isn't about a destination. As I get older, the more I realise it can't be about a destination. It's possibly about, it is just a state of mind, and it's also dependent on where you can go to in that day, and you might not feel it. I mean, I feel like I rarely feel it, but I know for a fact that when I see the kids or Nadia or people seeing me having joy, I can see reflected in the fact that I am finding happiness all the time in certain little things.
Pockets.
Yeah, little pockets.
Think of it as little.
I think we're encouraged to go for the great big ball of happiness rather than
Well, like
just
you
getting
said,
little
that
bits
list,
of
the
it.
status symbols of life, the achievements. Again, that poem that Donna Ashworth has done about around
Ashley.
exams and the pressure. We put so much pressure on ourselves. Well, just society does. And it's about, I think, finding your way back to yourself. It's okay, actually, for me to say, I'm really happy when I'm at home and when I'm with my family and I'm cooking something lovely and we're chatting about something. It's okay. It's okay. It's like I was saying yesterday to somebody about one of our girls, and I was saying, she doesn't want a lot of things. She's very simple in her desires. Like she always says, I don't want a big house, I don't want a car, I don't. This other person went, really? How weird.
Oh, really? There you go.
Like there was something wrong with her, and I thought, because there's that pressure that we're all supposed to want so much. And sometimes it's just about saying to yourself, fucking hell, I'm running. Do I actually want it? Who's told me I want it? And if you do, then great. But sometimes you go, actually, I don't. Like, do I want a bigger place to live? Do I actually need another car? Do I actually need a car at all? All that stuff that can drive us into the ground, reaching for it, running for it. And actually, maybe it's not what we even want. As my dad says, success is a spike only if you should sit on.
Reese Roberts, you're in Cannes. Are you there for the festival? You have to learn as you get older to try and be present, because everything is fleeting. The ability to be present is an endless gift that gives you deep gratitude for being alive and people who love you.
Reese, we love you.
Yeah. Kim
Such a
Carroll,
poet.
my happiness is simple things and daily things. Birds in my bird bath.
Exactly.
New flowers blooming, smile from a stranger, endless things. And look, this here, Natasha
So
Milchin.
beautiful.
I'd look at younger pictures of myself and realise what an absolute idiot I had been, thinking I wasn't pretty, skinny, etc.
It's a waste of our lives, isn't it?
So,
God.
Carol A. Smith, sending you love, my darling. You both helped me living alone in my life. Thank you. Oh, Mandy Beddoes,
Mandy, big hug.
sending you up. Elijah Mark, I had 3 heart attacks at 46. Wow.
Jesus.
Hereditary. I thought I was invincible. I now live life for the simple things. You don't know what's around the corner.
Oh, and grateful, I suppose, all the time to be here. That's why. Oh, I love these things that come out of just a birthday.
Yeah, absolutely.
conversation.
Well, let's take things to a darker place, shall we? Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Obviously, I did the live last night. We did a live kind of unpacking of the day. It was the end of Amber Heard's cross-examination
There's
yesterday.
a live about half an hour after the court recesses.
Yeah.
So do catch my.
So
I
it'll
know
be
a lot
about
of you have
11
been
o'clock
watching
tonight.
it. About 11 o'clock tonight. So I've got hiccups.
So Amber Heard's cross-examination came to an end. Johnny's lawyer got under her skin a bit. They brought up the suggestion that she'd beaten up her former girlfriend at Seattle airport and got arrested.
Did she?
Yeah.
Did she really?
But no charges were brought against her, which her lawyers were very quick to establish. We heard from, and I talked about this a lot last night, and I'm really keen to get back on the live tonight because I've had time to process a little bit. Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's former friend came on the stand and said what I felt last night was an absolute game changer for the trial. He said the sentence that after they got married, Johnny Depp said to him, Now we're married, I can punch her and no one can say anything. That is such a loaded, enormous sentence. And then, of course, it transpires once you sort of sit with the person who said this, that he was instrumental in Amber Heard getting her restraining order. He was instrumental as chap. Now, to what extent?
How much of a friend of his was?
He went to great lengths to almost, you could argue, over-explain that he was friends with both of them equally. So anyway, things have taken a really dark, twisted turn because, of course, we're going to hear, in terms of how things are looking for Johnny Depp, because, of course, we're going to hear all of the witnesses for Amber Heard now.
That's interesting what Jennifer
all
just
stressing
said.
that actually, you know, he is a really dark and nasty character.
Jennifer Watson just said, interesting off the back of what you said, I've been watching it all and I've just always thought, oh, they're as bad as each other. But yesterday I'm completely on Johnny's side now.
Yeah, I mean,
it's interesting with what you've just said about the
well,
friends.
I thought it was the strongest day for Johnny's case yesterday until this chap hit the stand. And it was less about whether there was any validity. You know, again, you know, he said, Johnny said. We have no way of checking this, verifying this. And that's the danger with these mudslinging trials. Where, you know, is that how can anyone lose that sentence? It stuck with me. It stuck with me. And it will stick with the jury. You know, if you hear the idea that Johnny would have said, could have, or would have said that. Now, the only other possible thing that you could argue, do you remember when Johnny was trying to unpack why he sent those awful texts to him and Paul Bettany? Could it be his gallows sense of humour? Could it be the kind of thing that he would have made a joke about but didn't mean? Tasteless, wrong. But I think I suppose all I'm saying is we're never going to know.
We're never going to know.
But he's parked that thought and it's entered the courtroom. And I'm intrigued to know what you guys think. So join me later tonight at 11 o'clock live after today's court case.
Jennifer's just saying she'd like to make it clear she doesn't think that Johnny is any angel. Absolutely
No.
not.
Well, to be honest with you, I go to
addict.
extraordinary lengths in the lives to explain through my own experience precisely how difficult it will have been for Amber Heard to negotiate living with an addict. I mean, you can't... blame cannot sit on wholly one side, and that's where I don't sign up to this idea that it's all Amber Heard, all Amber Heard. What I do personally think potentially has happened here is, as the balance of power shifted away from her and from him in different directions, she found power and strength in areas she perhaps never expected to do, which often was around the fact that he was off his tits and out of control and not really knowing what the fuck was going on half the time. So, you know, I think, you know, all relationships morph and shift. I don't think there was an agenda at the beginning where she said, right, I'm setting out to completely, you know, trap this guy. I think someone said last night on the live, I thought it was a really good point, that perhaps she did start out with photographs to try and demonstrate where his behaviour was taking her to. And then at some point it transpired, or she realised that this could be something that could really benefit her to get out of this relationship. Do you know what I mean? So something could have started from a place of, I want to show Johnny how bad his addictions are. This leaves him doing this. And then it turned into a strategy of trying to get stuff, which, if so, she still hasn't got any slam dunk material. That's the critical point.
No, this is the problem, isn't it? Everybody, both sides can just say whatever they want.
Yeah.
Unless you've got some evidence.
Yeah.
Why don't you do a who's guilty? If you were in the jury now, would you vote guilty or not guilty?
Okay, so clever clogs. What's the poll?
As a member of the jury, he's too long, right?
I don't know, but you're the master of polls.
Oh, okay.
Come on. Yeah.
Is Johnny Depp guilty or not guilty? That's perfectly the right sentence.
And what are the two choices?
Guilty, not guilty. Guilty, not guilty.
I asked.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry, go on.
No, you obviously wanted to
No.
say something.
Sorry, I don't know. It really wasn't important. I don't know why I started to talk in that tone of voice.
And David Roberts, I just saw your message saying, oh, you haven't read out my messages. We never don't read messages out on purpose. So many messages go up so fast.
Oh,
that
but
we
we just
don't
read yours.
Yeah.
We just read yours. Not guilty. There you go. There's a poll there for all of you.
So what would you put at this point? Where would you vote?
Okay. This is a defamation case, and
Yeah.
the reason they're trying to prove that he was abusive, like in the Sun were fighting to be able to have used the word wife beater. That's different from proving he was a wife beater, though they had to then essentially prove sufficiently to the judge that he was a wife beater in order to use the term wife beater. So they succeeded in doing that.
But this is about whether she defamed
whether she
his
defamed him. So
name,
what they're trying
and
to prove is that he was an abuser, and that so therefore she didn't defame him. So
somebody just said that they posted not guilty and they meant to put not guilty. Oh look, already what?
84% saying not guilty. I personally think she is guilty of defaming Johnny, personally, at this point.
I do. I think that
because I think where
that op-ed piece was clearly about him.
And his
I think where the lawyers missed a trick, and obviously I haven't watched a lot of the trial, but maybe you've seen this in later days, but the one bit that I did hear is I wanted them to ask.
Exactly, guilty of being a fucking weirdo, but not necessarily an abuser.
Yeah.
Good point, over and out.
Said, I would have asked the agent, after that op-ed piece, was there a clear distinction the day before and the day after, or the days just after that op-ed piece? Because when you're representing a star of that degree, you are taking calls about that star every day. Believe you me, there'll be requests.
Yeah, but a huge thing has been made of that insofar in that lots of people have testified for Johnny, saying that his pirates everything went once the op-ed kind of kicked in.
And that was before all the case and everything here in the UK. That was just on that op-ed piece.
Well, that's what
I want to know.
That's where Amber's defence have been really trying to muddy the water there.
Yeah.
Their claim is that he was on the wane because of the London case. He was actually, their argument was he was on the wane prior because of him being late on set.
But do you see, that's
Disney
why
losing
I wanted
interest.
got a question to be asked of the agent was that week after the op-ed, were phone calls changing? Because I didn't hear them ask that.
They kind of asked that, but they couldn't identify it.
But do you know what I mean? Because that, as far as I can understand, this case is about that piece that she wrote changed everything for him.
That's what
even though she didn't name him.
Yeah.
And I think in that she is guilty for doing that.
No, I
totally
totally agree that that's exactly what happened. And I think what her defence are trying to say is that because Disney, and this is what drives me nuts about this, they don't know how, they're obfuscating how the industry works. They're saying that because Disney didn't write a letter, or Jerry Bruckheimer didn't write a letter saying, due to the op-ed, we are now no longer considering Johnny as part of this franchise. They're trying to say that because that letter doesn't, and as you know in the business,
it doesn't work.
His agent did say, he said, look, I speak to people. There's a culture.
Yeah,
everyone knew. He said we were in
Yeah.
bars and members clubs, so everyone knew the reason no one was talking about Johnny without saying it was because of this. And they were like, but where's the proof? Disney have
So
submitted
that's not
all
how
these
the business is done.
That's exactly it.
So if that is what we are trying to work out, and it's not about whether he sexually abused her or... Because it's not about that, is it, this case? We're not deciding with this case whether he sexually abused her or not. We're deciding with whether that piece changed, without naming him, everybody knew it was him, and then that ruined his career.
Yeah, but they're trying to have their cake and eat it. They're trying to say it wasn't about him, but then they're trying to say that if you prove that it is about him, it was accurate. I mean, this is a point. This is a point that no one's actually made. On the one hand, they're saying it's not about him at all. Yeah. But on the other, they're trying to prove that if it is about him, he did abuse her.
That's what I mean. It's just, it feels like, almost like those dots haven't been joined up. It's really strange. It's like everyone's wanting their cake and eat it. Yeah. And it's almost like you can't have the two things.
Yeah, exactly. And the other point that was made, sorry to bang on about this, but the other thing that was said yesterday was it's a defamatory article if you can identify Johnny as being referenced within it. She admitted on the stand yesterday that she was identifying a group of men, or certain men, of which Johnny was one. By identifying him as a group, aren't you still identifying him?
Yes.
So in a sense, she admitted it was defamatory. I think.
They need us on their loyalties.
And of course, it's not defamatory if he didn't do it. So they are in a bit of a kind of catch-22 there. Final point on this before we move on to the Keith Urban, Nicole Kidman and dry dating quickly, is I think, does anyone else think? I think the judge can't fucking stand Amber's lawyers. I think the judge has had, I really like the judge. I just think she's down to earth, she's fair, she's got a really nice face, I really like her. And I think she's conducting it brilliantly. But I sense she's really fucking annoyed with Elaine, Amber's lawyer, who won't turn her fucking microphone on. Amber's, she's really frustrated with Amber's counsel. Really frustrated.
I think we're going to have to leave these two topics
I think
for
we
tomorrow,
are.
because they're nice. We don't want to just rush through them.
We're going to talk about dry dating tomorrow. That means when you date and you're not wet. Is that right?
when you're sober.
When you're sober. So what did we talk about today?
We had a good old chat with them.
Yeah, had a good old chat, guys. There we go. Guys, stay safe. As I say, I'll see you
Big
at 11
hugs
o'clock
to
tonight.
everybody. Lots
Subscribe
of
if you
love.
haven't, and something will be landing on the channel later.
Bye.